التمانع. It's proof of mutual hindrance. Burhan التمانع. Based on an ayah in the Quran, Surah Al-Anbiya, Surah Al-Anbiya, لو كان فيهما آلهة إلا الله لفسدتا. This dalil, rational proof, comes in the Quran. We call this is what's referred to as the proof of mutual hindrance. How does it work? You've got two gods, God A, God B. Two gods, God A and God B. Doesn't sound too good, this, does it? You got to, it doesn't sound too good, but just to mention this, like I've heard some people say, how can you start talking like that? Like start creating God and start imagining that there's God with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sayyidina Ibrahim did the same thing. And that's a soundest opinion. Why did Ibrahim turn and say that he saw the kawkab and hada Rabbi? He saw a planetary body and said, this is my Lord. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ قَالَ لَا أُحِبُّ الْآفِلِينَ. Ibrahim when he said it set, when the star set, he said, I don't worship those things that set. Then when he saw the moon, he said, hada Rabbi, this is my Lord. When it set, he said if if my Lord does not guide me, I'll be from the people who are astray. Then he says, he then sees the sun and said, this is my Lord, this is the biggest of the lot. When it's set, he completely rejects it. Then at the end it says, this is the proof that we gave Ibrahim against his people. The ulama, now we have an ishkal here about this story, because Ibrahim said, this is my Lord, this is my Lord, this is my Lord. It's impossible in Aqida, and we'll come to this, that a prophet can go into a state of shirk before or after they were prophet. No prophet can be a disbeliever before or after they're a prophet. Impossible. That's part of Ismat al-Anbiya, the infallibility of prophets. They never rejected Allah before or after prophets, after they became prophets. When it says in Surah Al-Duha, وَوَجَدِكَ ضَالًا فَهَدَى, dal here, that we found you astray, doesn't mean astray. Doesn't mean astray. What was it? He knew that there was a Lord. He didn't know how to worship him. He didn't know how to worship him. That's why he went to Ghari Hira. He would meditate in the cave. He didn't know. He wanted to pray. He wanted to fast. He knew he was from the Hunafa, those who connected to the original way of Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam 2,000 years before, but he didn't know how to connect to his Lord. No prophet could be astray prior to or after revelation. Impossible, and we'll do this when we come to belief in the prophets, why that's impossible. So likewise, when we look at this story, you cannot say that Ibrahim worshipped and believed that the sun, the star and the moon were gods of the knowledge. So what was he doing? He was showing them the fallacy of their beliefs. He was presenting to them to their beliefs that you say that this star is your Lord, but look at what happens to the star. It disappears, changes. That's dalil aqli he's using to them a rational proof, but he's presenting to them kufr to negate the kufr. He's presenting to them unbelief to negate the unbelief. So if you rationally hypothesize and say that based upon your understanding such and such, and then negate it, perfectly acceptable to do that. That's not you holding a belief of kufr. You're presenting a belief in order to take it apart. That's what Sayyidina Ibrahim said. And that's what Allah is doing in this ayah in the Quran, proof of mutual hindrance. لَوْ كَانَ فِيهِمَا آلِهَةٌ إِلَّا اللَّهُ لَفَسَدَتَا. Allah is saying now, had there been gods in the heavens and the earth other than Allah, they both would have gone into a state of disorder. The heavens and the earth would have gone into a state of disorder. We see that there is no disorder in creation. Everything works smoothly according to a plan. Nothing is out of place. Everything in existence, down to the smallest point, works smoothly according to a preordained plan. Nothing's out of place. So how does this argument then work? The argument of the Quran. You've got God A and God B. Come back to God A and God B. God A decides to create a star. Right? Follow the argument. God A decides to create a star. God B says, no, I don't want to have a star. Right? Seems simple, but just to highlight the fact, and this is the argument that's used in the Quran. What happens then? If God A wants to create a star and God B wants not to create a star, if you read Greek mythology, it's all in there. Read Hindu mythology, it's all in there. God's fighting all the time. So what happens if God A and God B differ? That's the point of mutual hindrance. What happens? Somebody else, what happens if God A and God B differ? So you pass your Aqida exam and you'll go on. Anybody else, what happens if God A? Just go rationally according to this, what happens? One will dominate, one will not dominate. One's will happen, one's will not happen. God A says, I want to create a star. God B says, no. One or the other will happen. It's impossible both of them can happen. One or the other will happen. So they'll say, God A now, he creates a star. God B can't stop him. Who's the God? God A, not God B. God B decides, he prevents him from creating the star. Who's the God? Not God A, God B. There can only be one of them as being God's there. We say one of them is Ghalib, one of them is Maghlub. That's the proof of mutual hindrance. One of them will prevent the other. So whoever's prevented from carrying out their will cannot be God. But that's Burhan al-Taman. Simple logic. And all I was trying to say is that what's going to happen is always going to be conflict within, but we don't see conflict within the system of the heavens and the earth. There's always going to be fighting between different gods, but we don't see that within the system of the heavens and the earth. There's another possibility though, which they call Burhan al-Tawarud, the proof of mutual agreement. So we said two gods, God A and God B, they decide on two different things. What if they agree on the same point? What if God A said, I want to create a star, and God B said, yeah, I want to create a star as well? See, we don't have that contradiction now, so how can we argue that?
Is it that they're one?
What's that?
Would it be that they're one?
No, they're two different entities. Let's assume two different entities, assuming all of this, right? There's only one God, there's only one God. You have to take shahada after this session. How do we answer that one? That's Burhan al-Tawarud, where there's mutual agreement.
I mean, there'll be subtle differences between what they both intend, though. I mean, they won't have exactly the same thing in mind.
Perhaps something else, man. There's another argument that's used here.
One will become dependent on the other.
Both of them rely upon each other to make a decision. We've negated reliance. They cannot be, even say there's two gods, in order for him to create, he must agree with the other one. That's not possible with a God. God must be completely independent. Here now, mutual acceptance or agreement negates the essence of divinity, that in order for you to create, you must agree with the other one. Both of them are impossible. So that's the rational proof that the ulama of Tawheed use for why you cannot have partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cannot have partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Somebody raised a question in Liverpool recently about Hinduism and also even about Trinity as well. So this is just God taking on different forms. It's not saying that there's actually, because if you speak to Hindus, for example, there's the one God, but God comes in different forms. Pantheism is where God permeates through the whole of existence. Everything becomes God. You're a God. The cows are God, the rivers are God, everything is a God. Which actually makes more sense than Trinity. It actually makes a lot more sense, although both of them are logical. But Trinitarianism is more problematic. Why? Because you're restricted just to three forms. So if God can take on forms, why only three? If you not allow him to take on multiple forms, he can appear in the form of creation. Why can't he come as a cow? Why can't he come as a river? Why can't he come as a table? If he's all powerful. So how do we, because a lot of paganism is not negating, or is not saying that there's equal partners. A lot of paganism is saying that there's one God, but that God appears in multiple forms. How would you negate that? And particularly, like the real issue with paganism is that it appears in created form. How do we negate that? Because even Hindus will claim that essentially Hinduism is a Unitarian faith. Because ultimately there's one God, the Brahman, which appears in multiple forms. How do we negate that? Why can't God become a human being? Sorry? What's the problem with that? Otherwise he has the attributes of creation. Otherwise he has the attributes of creation. If God Almighty can become part of creation, can permeate through creation. He can take on the attributes of creation. What's the essential attributes of creation that distinguishes it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or the other way around, what's the essential attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that distinguishes him from creation?
Independency.
Dissimilarity. You can argue, I mean, all of them interconnected. Wujud, his existence. No beginning to that, no end to that. All the creation has a beginning point. Once he takes on form of creation, it allows him then he can have the attributes of creation. So you say that God Almighty can become a human being, even though it's the most perfect human being, so that he becomes a universal sacrifice for the sins of humanity. He dies. He dies. Impossible.